Before 1999, if you needed a dentist in Vietnam, you'd likely end up in a crowded public hospital or someone's converted living room. Then came along Dr. Vo Van Tu Hien, who changed the game. He opened up Vietnam's first private multi-chair dental clinic, Nha Khoa 2000, bringing modern dentistry to the people, right when the country needed it most. Today, that legacy lives on with Premier Dental, founded by Dr. Hien in 2004 and now led by his daughter Annie Vo and her US-trained husband, Dr. Albert Viet Lee. They're blending global standards with Vietnamese care, and not just for fillings and cleanings. Premier Dental focuses on areas Vietnam urgently needs, like gum disease treatment and kids' dental health. And they're doing it with advanced tech, bilingual support, and a no-nonsense ethical approach to care. If you want dental care you can trust from a team who's modernized it over 2 decades, visit premierdental.vn or just Google Premier Dental Vietnam. They've been pioneering dentistry here since the 90s and they're only getting better. In Saigon, they love sugar. I didn't realize even one of my favorite foods is cum tam. I also didn't realize that the reason I probably love it so much is because it's marinated in a sweet sugary sauce.
I didn't understand half the thing they said. The southern accent. It was the rural of America. I had no idea. Everybody wear cowboy boots to high school. I know that I could make friends who have the same background, and Saigon is just a melting pot. It's the perfect place to meet super interesting people.
Millennials have the biggest alcohol intake, but is that true that the Gen Z drink way less than millennials? Welcome to another episode of a Vietnam podcast with me, your host, Neil Mackay. I moved to Vietnam in 2016. I was going to be here for just 6 weeks, and that turned into another 3 months, then another 6 months, then another year, then 2 years, and then now 9 years later, I am still here. I started this podcast in 2019 because I was bored one day and I wanted to get to know people in Saigon, and I now talk to people from all over the world, all connected to Vietnam, to share their story. Today's guest has a background in behavioral research. She's actually lived all over the world in the UK, the US, and is from Hanoi originally and now lives in Saigon. So in this episode, we're going to share more about what it means to live in such a sugar-heavy country like Vietnam. They love to add sugar to everything. With diabetes, we're going to talk about consumer behaviors, and especially related to Gen Z, something that we've talked about a lot lately on this podcast, and how consumer behaviors are different in Vietnam to the rest of the world. And then we're also going to talk about the cultural differences between, obviously, Hanoi and Saigon are very different, almost 2 different countries in themselves, and the cultural differences between Hanoi and Saigon and overseas. I'm excited to introduce my guest today is Jane Ha. Jane, thank you so much for joining me on a Vietnam podcast.
Thanks for having me, Neil.
You are very welcome. So I want to first of all talk about living with diabetes in Vietnam, because as I mentioned, it's something that I've never actually met anyone with diabetes in Vietnam, but maybe they've just not told me. Is it underdiagnosed here?
Without any medical background, I would say yes. If you see in the market, we have a lot of sugar product, carbohydrate product, and as people have more options to choose from, you almost cannot escape the sugar life. And I think the diabetes rate is going up in Vietnam as well in other South Asian countries. I would say Vietnam is actually on the lower rate side compared to, let's say, the Philippines.
Bad in the Philippines, I know that. A really big problem in the Philippines, and diet related.
I think people are now more aware of what goes into the body on a daily basis and what are in the ingredients of these products that they consume every day. So they have a more heightened awareness of this. And as we see in our work, manufacturers and brands are putting out more products that are healthier for the people and for the environment. So that's a very positive trend that we are seeing in our research. But also for myself, before, when I went to the supermarket, I would say 5 years ago, I would not be able to eat anything. I would not be able to pick out anything. So actually working in this field is very interesting, because that's basically working in a field, working with products that I can actually consume So it's like a funny love-hate relationship because I love behavioral science. I love consumer behavior, but then I'm the outlier of the common population. As you said before, we've never talked about this before, right? You probably haven't met a lot of people who have diabetes. And actually, it is a condition or diagnosis only seen in older people. But this rate is, we are seeing a lot of these diseases or conditions that are only often seen in older people, but now are in younger population. Actually, I'm the only, with an exception, I think I'm the only young person with diabetes that I know.
I was
I
going to
know
say, in
someone
all of
else.
Vietnam, no, the only one that
No,
you know.
but it's quite rare.
Yeah.
I think I've got the early onset diabetes, which is actually a mix of type 1 and type 2.
Before I get into asking about modern Vietnam, because some of the products you're talking about, especially, it's a problem with modernization across Asia and the West as well, dealing with diabetes and obesity because of fast food and all these new products. But I want to come back a little bit because one of the things that I'm asking the question about what it's like to live with diabetes in Vietnam, because especially in Saigon, they love adding sugar to everything, right? Now, if you don't know, if you're listening from overseas and you've never been to Vietnam, so I know just to generalize, Vietnam is broken into three kind of food categories. Saigon is sweet, Central is spicy, the North is salty, to overgeneralize, right? And in Saigon, they love sugar. And I didn't realize, like, even one of my favorite foods is cam tam. And I didn't realize till recently that that's a southern food. I just thought it was a Vietnamese food. It's from the south. And I also didn't realize that the reason I probably love it so much is because it's marinated in a sweet, sugary sauce. And I
And
was like,
the sauce that you dip everything in has a lot of
has a lot
sugar.
of sugar?
And all the noodles that you have, pho.
Everything. And the one that gets me the most, though, is you get an orange juice. And I fell for this last week because I know this and I forgot. And I ordered like an orange juice. And then I walked away and I took a sip. It's got a mouthful of sugar granules that are all in the bottom. And I was like, I forgot they add sugar to everything. So one of the only things, not one of the only things, but one of the few things that I can say in Vietnamese is com dung. Even then, most times people look at me like, what did you just say? Because they don't understand my pronunciation because it's so bad. But it is one of the, even today I ordered a cappuccino. And sorry, just getting sidetracked. That was it. Just a couple of weeks ago, because we're just new into the studio, I got a cappuccino from a nearby coffee stall. And again, walked home with it. I forgot that they add sugar by default to cappuccinos, to coffees. Like in the West, that is an addition. You ask for sugar. I forgot here, I don't know in Hanoi, but in Saigon, there's many places, not all, that by default will add sugar to the coffee. So now I have to remember if I go there, com dung.
Yeah, I've got that so many times. I mean, when I first arrived, everywhere I went, like even sometimes I'll forget, of course, to ask people, and then I'd have something, I'm like, I can't have this. And then sometimes people are so lenient, they would like exchange one without sugar, but like most of the time, it's sugar in everything, and you don't even notice. And then I noticed it, like I'm quite susceptible to sugar because I can't have it. So when I detect something with sugar, that I know right away because I can taste it different. But yeah, when you can't have something, it becomes more detectable, I guess. So it's everywhere. It's hard. It's definitely a lifestyle change, but I am definitely seeing a shift in, well, first in the way that people are consuming their product, and on the other side, how brands and manufacturers, vendors, F&B vendors are adding options to remove sugar at the personalization level that you actually don't get that everywhere, anyway. So if I want to order my morning latte, then there will be an option to not add sugar, or bubble tea, for example. Before you would not have this option on the app, but that's the level of advancement that technology has become to adapt to people's taste and demand for personalization. So now I can have bubble tea with my colleague. Like after lunch, they would order bubble tea to be part. It's like a ritual. You don't really need a bubble tea after lunch, right? Because you're full, but then you all have space for that. That's part of being a social in a social group. So this is something that we do. But yeah, now I can order with them because I have the option to not add sugar into it.
And is there a difference between Hanoi and Saigon? Do you see, is there less sugar in, like, do they automatically add sugar to everything in Hanoi? Or it is just a Saigon thing then?
Yeah, I would say the palate in Saigon is really different. I have a lot of colleagues from the south and from Mekong Delta, and they are so used to that. And we just talked about this today when we had lunch. A colleague of mine said that she doesn't like the food in the north because she's so used to the southern taste. And then we went to, I think we went to like a grill restaurant the other day, and I guess the style is a bit northern. The cooking style of that restaurant is a bit northern. And some of my colleagues complained that it's too bland. And I was like, this is perfect. And all of the people from Hanoi in our company said this is perfect, like perfect seasoning.
Well, the one that stood out to me the most when I kind of really learned this was several years ago. I was out for a work when I worked in a school and I had a corporate job, and we went out for hot pot. As you guys love hot pot here, right? It's just crazy. You love hot pot. And there was a new guy who was from the north, and he couldn't eat the hot pot because it was too sweet. This is again one of these things. To me, it was just normal. Like I'd had it before, I knew what it tasted like. I never like mentally was like, oh, this is sweet. But once he said it was too sweet, like he literally couldn't eat it. Then I was like, oh, that's why it tastes so good. It's sweet. It's got sugar in it, and it's so hidden.
That's why it's so addictive. I guess you don't notice it until I guess for my case until you can't have it. It's restriction everywhere, like on a daily basis. From the moment that I order my morning coffee to what do I have for lunch.
It must really restrict you then, like eating local food. Living in Saigon, is there just a lot you can't eat then? Because you can't take off the marinade off Comtam, right? Like, can you go? Is there a sugar-free Comtam?
No,
Oh my god!
maybe that's where that's a level of personalization that
Well, not there
we'll
yet.
get. Yeah,
We'll get there eventually.
I'm happy with just coffee and juice and bubble tea. You know.
Well, I'm amazed at bubble tea coming without sugar, because I mean I feel like before it was, do you want normal sugar, 50% more sugar, 100%? It was just like, how much sugar do you want? So sweet. Vietnam. Oh, again, I say Vietnam, but I really my experience is Saigon. You see that sweet tooth from a young age, and I literally interviewed Dr. Albert Vietley from Premier Dental, and we talked about the impact of sugar on, well, not just diabetes, but like on children's teeth. And I couldn't believe it when I worked in public school here, and outside there's a guy selling like candy floss or fairy floss. Different countries call it different things. Someone outside with candy floss, and I'm like, this outside a school? Like, I'm from a country where they're trying to remove as much sugar as possible from everything. They're adding a sugar tax, and they've done it already. Whereas here, literally, the after school snack is pure sugar.
Yeah. I think it's just the norm. To give children sugar. Well, I remember when I was growing up, my parents would not let me have sugar because they're doctors. But I grew up, well, now I'm diabetic after all, so they can't stop. They can't stop what's happening to me. Anyway, just a story. But I would go to like birthday parties when I was a kid, and yeah, just like 1 liter of Coca-Cola, Sprite. It's very normal to have this little treat. And I guess in consumer products now, we work with a lot of confectionery brands and manufacturers. They need to take that into consideration as well because the government is applying a sugar tax.
Oh, it is applying it?
Soon, I think in 2 to 3 years, there is a sugar tax.
That's a lot of tax money then the government's going to get if they're going to put a tax on sugar.
So, yeah, companies have to rethink how they formulate their product. In our work, we see a huge trend in less sugar or no sugar trend. Actually, that's not even a trend. That's the direction that you need to take if you want to thrive in this environment because people are more aware of the high fat, salt, sugar diet, what it does to you. We see a movement in this sort of being more healthy, better for you products. Actually, I'm very happy to now go out to the supermarket and see that I can buy stuff. I can consume stuff because a lot of brands are actually replacing sugar with more natural alternative like date or diabetic sugar. So I'm super happy to see that going on.
Well, I have a controversial question for you because there's so much more low sugar, no sugar products, drinks. Now, one of my favorites right now is the Pepsi Gumdong with the cherry. Is it cherry?
Yes, cherry or lime.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
like the
gonna
lime
say
one. I
that.
like the cherry one.
Oh, okay.
So my dad had diabetes since he was before I was born. So we never grew up with sugary drinks. We grew up with all the diet cokes, diet stuff, blah blah blah. But we still could eat chocolate and all of that. There was not like no sugar, just all the fizzy drinks mostly. And I do have a very sweet tooth. I will admit. But I do like the no sugar. But my controversial question is that actually healthier? Because it's filled with chemicals, right? Is aspartame better than sugar?
Well, I don't have the scientific background to say that, but yeah, some people would argue that if you consume that over time, I mean, aspartame is one of the alternative. There are others. The one I would argue is better than others, and then it
Which one?
also aspartame is probably the worst.
Oh, is it? And
The
I don't
worst
even
of
know.
all them all. So
I don't.
yes.
Is that the one that's in the Pepsi? I don't even know. I just call everything aspartame. I don't. If it's no sugar, I'm like, but you
I
can.
know there are different kind of
There are different
diabetic
types of
sugars. So
diabetic
the
sugar.
healthiest one would be allulose, which is more expensive. So that is a gap that still needs to be bridged in the consumer good market. I guess that would take a long time, which is to find actually to create formulate products that are actually better for health than just removing something bad with. I wouldn't say sugar is bad either. If you can consume it moderately, there's nothing wrong with that. But removing something that could have some health consequences with something else that probably has not had a lot of research into, then probably not good. So for me, it's a lifestyle, it's a diet that I have to create for myself, and I have to be super vigilant when I go out and look at products and ingredients. And actually, in Vietnam now, the ingredient list are a lot more transparent than before. Yeah, before you go out to have candy, you don't know what's in it. But now I think manufacturers are required to list nutritional facts and ingredients in there. So it's one thing for manufacturers to do that, but then it's another thing for consumers to know what to look into, what's good for them. So that is a lot of education that needs to go into that as well.
If you're looking for a reason to finally book that trip to Vietnam and you're looking for world class dental care, then go to Premier Dental in Ho Chi Minh City. You can actually save up to 70% compared to Western prices, and believe me, you will not be compromising on quality. This isn't a back alley budget dentistry, it's ethical, internationally trained professionals using cutting edge tech in a state of the art clinic. Founded by Vietnam's dental pioneer Dr. Vo Van Tu Hien, and now led by his US trained son in law, Premier Dental combines global standards with Vietnamese hospitality. Come for the crown and stay for the coffee, culture, and cocktails. Visit premierdental.vn to book your appointment and start your dental vacation. It's another thing that it shows that Vietnam is massively behind the rest of the world, but catching up quickly, because
Very
I've
quickly.
been here for so long, I just forget that back home, I mean, even in the US, right, they list the calories and stuff like this, the ingredients, and you kind of laugh being here in Vietnam. Like, imagine listing the calories on everything, and you're just saying they didn't really even list the ingredients. I feel like since I've been here, you've been always able to kind of see the ingredients, but it's not as common, and it's interesting. Just my point is, it's catching up quickly on everything, and it's things like that, like listing the ingredients. And the sugar tax thing that you've mentioned is actually blowing my mind. I never even knew that was on the table. I don't keep up to date on all the events. Is it quite new? Because I don't know, in Scotland they brought in the sugar tax. Did you hear about what happened with Iron Brew?
No, tell me about it.
Do you know what Iron Brew is?
Yes,
Yeah, so
the drink.
the drink, right? So the orange drink, where Scotland is the only country in the world that has a soft drink that outsells Coca-Cola. Every other country in the world, Coca-Cola is the number one soft drink. In Scotland, it's Iron Brew. I don't even know how to describe it. I think the label calls it a fruit-based drink. There's no fruit in it at all. My wife says it's closest to Big Red in the US, if you know what Big Red is, which is a red drink in the United States.
It's cola, right? It's a type of cola.
I'm brew.
I'm
No, it's its
thinking
own
if
soft drink. Or Big Red.
Yeah, Big Red.
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, even what Big Red
Have
is.
you had root beer?
I've had root beer. It's not
not
even
anything
close
like that. Okay.
Iron Brew it's just Iron Brew. It's its own thing. And it is good. I do love Iron Brew. I mean, I worked in a supermarket. They sell tons of it, crates of it, everything. But then they brought in this sugar tax. So they had to redo the recipe for Iron Brew, which apparently the recipe is like kept under locks in a safe. It's only the founder and his son and one other person that knows what the original recipe is. And they changed it, and it's fucking garbage. It's awful. I got it here. So in Am Gourmet, they sell cans of Iron Brew.
The new one or the reformulated one?
Well, over the years, it's changed. So it used to be the normal one, and then they brought in the sugar tax a couple of years ago. And I went and bought literally like twice a year. And it's normally New Year's Day when I'm super hungover, and maybe the day after my birthday when I'm super hungover. So Iron Brew is known to be a hangover cure. So that would be when
because of its sugar content.
Probably, yeah, probably exactly.
Actually, I do get that when I'm hungover.
Really?
Yeah.
You need some sugar.
I just crave sugar.
You're like, fuck your diabetes.
That's why
I'm
Sunday
having
is
some
my
sugar.
cheat day.
Yeah, it's your cheat
Yeah.
day. So they changed it, and I tried it. And it's one of these things you can just taste the aspartame or the whatever fake sugar is in it. It's got that flavor.
That sweet taste is annoying.
Yeah. But so what they've done now, because there was such clamor for the old recipe, they've now brought out, the last time I was home anyway, they've brought out the cans with the old recipe, the traditional one. So it's a bit more expensive because the sugar tax makes it more expensive. But people are like, fuck it, I'll pay them more money. Like when they did the transition from the old one to the new one, people were selling the old ones online on eBay and things like that for like 10 times, 100 times, because it was like the last few ones of the original one. But now because people are like, it's no good, they've brought it back.
Yeah,
so,
it's a scarcity bias. If you know it's running out, then...
Yeah, exactly, right. It was probably a long-term plan. Like, we're going to eventually sell the old recipe for 10 times more. But it got me thinking about this sugar tax in Vietnam. I mean, we're talking about like the orange juice where they just ladle in the sugar and things like this. Do you think they're not going to tax them probably, are they? Like the mom and pop places?
No, probably not.
But it would be amazing
But on
if
the
they did.
sugar company that they buy from, the sugar would be more expensive.
So they might start adding less sugar just because it's costing more.
I don't know if we can get to that
We'll
point.
see. Hopefully. My Comtam better not get less sweet. That's all I can say.
They will have to ration their sugar. And then actually your orange juice is going to get healthier after all.
That's all right.
Maybe that's the point.
It's even things like watermelon juice. I remember getting a watermelon juice and it's like already sweet and then they add more sugar. But I want to go into now, you mentioned about like consumer trends and behaviors and especially related to low sugar drinks, low sugar products. What I really want to know about, because you work in behavioral science, consumer behavioral science, we call it science. You give me a look there like it's not called science, or it is science?
No, it is science. It's marketing science.
Marketing science. You give me like a look there like I oversold it or something. So you work in behavioral science and consumer trends, which I think is so interesting because I think it's like everything in this world, right? We don't realize how much we're being sold to. And I used to work in fundraising. I should know this. I should remember this. I won an award for fundraising because I applied fundraising science. So we did things like put the amount that you want people to donate as the middle amount. So you put a low one, then you put a really high one.
Yeah.
So you choose the middle one. I was able to use the database properly, which nobody had done before. So we asked for an amount of money that was like 10% more than the last donation and things like this. And the manager of the director of the charity, because it was a science-based charity and it was amazing. It was finding cures for cancer and asthma and allergies, things like this. He was kind of against it at first because it's always awkward when you're asking for money. He's like, I don't want to ask Rita, who I've known for 50 years, because he knew a lot of the donors. He's like, I don't want to ask them for more money. And I'm like, no, but if we do this, and sure enough, we got like 15% more money than the last time and blah, blah, blah. So I know that these things exist. I've done them before, but it's always like a little jarring when you find out that there's somebody behind the scenes like yourself studying us and changing how the Lazada app looks or how the Shopee app looks.
Everything we consume has psychology and behavioral science in it. We just don't know it. From the apps that you use, like there's so much like UX research, like user research, go into an app that you're using to get you to buy more. Last year, I think when Temu was in Vietnam, they were here for a short time. I don't know if they're back to business
What
in
is
Vietnam.
Temu again? I've
So
heard it.
Temu is a e-commerce platform that originates from China. And Shopee and Lazada and all that, right? And Temu attempted to enter the Vietnam market, just to take some of that share because the e-commerce pie is too good to not take some of it. Right, so they were here for a short time. They were selling product at super crazy cheap prices, but their app, that was what I was so impressed with. They had a way to get people to buy even when things run out of stock by suggesting similar things. You can say it's manipulative, but essentially everything that you consume from the menu at the coffee shop that you go by every day. There's some principles of psychology in it to get you to buy more, from the medium size of Starbucks to a large size.
Yeah. Well, I even read like the way restaurants are set up, like they put wine glasses on the table and the wine list on the table, even though most people don't go with the intention of buying wine because it has the highest markup. So they want you to get, that's why they assume, it may not, for most people, yeah, sure, 90% of people might be like, no, I don't want the wine glasses, but it puts it in your head. Should we get wine tonight? Let's get a bottle instead of a glass, and it's like that kind of psychology that we don't realize. So in Vietnam, how does Vietnam shop differently to other countries?
Vietnamese consumers are very price sensitive.
Is everyone not price sensitive? What makes Vietnam more price sensitive?
Because of the options that we have. And then it's also something called anchoring effect. You anchor your perception based on the first information that you have. So let's say when Grab entered Vietnam, they made shipping price or delivery fee free. And that's what people are used to. So they're not very happy if they have to pay delivery now, right? As opposed to, I guess, delivery in the UK. People are happy to get to pay £5 to get it delivered to their doorstep. No, everything here has to be free. That's what people are used to. So they have this huge anchoring effect that, oh, why should I pay for shipping? And that's the same as other apps like Shopee. Like, we don't pay for shipping. As first, when Grab entered Vietnam, and they put out a lot of vouchers, a lot of discounts just to get more buyers, right? But then over time, that's not very sustainable, right? But they have to stay competitive. I have my go-to coffee shops in the morning, going back to coffee, because that's when I'm the most, I guess, aware of my behavioral change. I would have my 1 or 2 or 3 go-to coffee shops on Grab. Every morning when I go to the office, I would order a cup of latte from them. But when they stopped the vouchers, it was like, oh my God, they don't give me any more vouchers. I need to switch to a new one. But because it's so easy, there are so many similar options in the F&B market or in the consumer good market. If something performs the same but at a cheaper price, then what do, right? So that's one part of it. But because recently there have been these huge, I guess, scandals or concerns about fake product and low quality product, people are actually paying more attention about the quality. So things are shifting. They're not just value conscious. Like, value has so many meanings now. Value can mean what you get for your money.
Well, value conscious is different to price conscious, right? Because value means it's how much you get for
Now
that
they're
price.
moving from price conscious to value
So they are
conscious.
changing.
How much they are getting for the money that they pay. And value, that can be how much volume they get, how convenient they get it. If you get it on the same day, yes, they are willing to pay that price. If the product gives them a different experience. So that's why we see a lot of innovations that go into elevating people's experience of consuming just a normal product, like, I guess, I don't know if you've heard of self-heating rice pot or self-heating hot pot. This is from Masan. So I think they put out this product.
Is that
I
not
think
magic? How does it self-heat?
it has a self-heating chemical component behind the plastic pot. So if you open it up and it self-heat and you get yourself a pot of hot pot in front of you, you can bring it to the idea. You can bring it anywhere. You can have the restaurant experience everywhere that you want, right? So that's a way to premiumize, to get people to pay for more. Well, they are price sensitive, but there's like lipstick effect that in the more difficult financial situation, inflation, prices are rising faster than, I guess, salary. Then people tend to treat themselves with small luxuries. So that could be a way for brands to premiumize, to bring this value to them. So consumers are more willing to pay because that would be a little treat.
So I'll be honest with you. What you're describing there, to me, sounds like the behavior of every consumer. It doesn't sound that Vietnam is different to anyone else. Because I think about supermarkets I used to work in, or the UK, sales everywhere, 3 for 2, 50% off, 10% discount, blah, 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 blah. The whole world is like that. How is Vietnam different?
My mom actually never buys anything full price.
I never buy anything full price, and I'm not Vietnamese. I'm just cheap. I'm very much that person. Like, I will look at the price of something. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'll look at the price of a pint of beer and go, right, that's 500 mils for 100,000 dong, right? That's 20,000 dong per 100 mils. But if I buy the 300 mil, that's 80,000 dong. So that's cost more. Like, I'll do that as well. And I don't know if that's just me. I don't know if that makes Vietnamese people different to the rest of the world.
They're not. They're just more.
More? Well, one thing I have heard about Vietnamese is they love discounts. They love to ask for discounts. I had a friend who had a small business and she got so sick of it.
It's the value that comes with the discount. That perception that they get something for that, oh, that's a steal, or that's that I get something for free. It's not just the only I guess the characteristic about the Vietnamese market. They like to personalize. They like convenience. Actually, that's something that maybe you can tell me more about, because now for me, I order everything online because it's just so convenient. The e-commerce infrastructure has made it so easy for me to order everything in one day. And then the quick commerce, like I need to have everything in today.
So that's interesting because, and I want to know, because I've not lived in the UK for 22 years. I mean, I've been in Vietnam for 9 years, right? So before that was in New Zealand and Australia. So I'm not like miles away from the Western world. But one of the things I love about Vietnam, and I do think this is very different to the rest of the world. I love the quick accessibility and the personalization. So when I was getting everything for the studio, I'll show you my Zalo later. It was hilarious. It was just literally Zalo message app, like hundreds of them. Because I was going on websites and there's a link to their Zalo, and some of them had the personal links to, like, it was like Quinn, Tao, Teen, like you literally could message the person individually. And I was just messaging, do you have this in stock? Do you have this in stock? Like all these cameras, all these cables, everything. I was messaging. Part of my questions were, can you deliver it today? Because I wanted it now, because I'm impatient, and maybe I'm more impatient because I live in Vietnam. And I'm in Saigon, I'm in the city centre, right? So it's not like I'm miles away, but I would literally be like, where are you based? A couple of them were like, we're in Hanoi. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's going to take 3 to 5 days. I was like, where are you? They're like, Phu Nhan. I was like, sweet, how long will it take you to deliver to Saigon, to District 1? Is that a Vietnamese thing?
Except for other Asian countries, I don't think it is the same kind of demand in the West. I guess with going back to Deliveroo, like you get these Deliveroo bicycles, right? Cannot do that.
I don't even know what a Deliveroo bicycle is yet. I'm so far removed. What is a Deliveroo bicycle? Like, why is that different to a normal bicycle?
It's just a delivery service that it's carried out on bicycle instead of, let's say, here in Vietnam is a motorbike, right?
Ah, right.
So if you need the speed, or you need you need instantly, then a Deliveroo bicycle will not cut it. Like, can you imagine a Grab bicycle that's supposed to you need it now.
True, very true.
Yeah, it's a fast-paced environment. You have 100 million people. People are under price, or they are under cost constraint though. So they are thinking a lot about what they buy. And again, with the concern about health and food safety, they are paying more attention to what they are buying, with the end goal that this is something that is better for their family, for their environment. for their health. Definitely the awareness is up there. They just don't go out and buy sweet stuff anymore. They actually pay. Well, they would compare prices between platform and depending on what they get in that deal, then they would go with that vendor or that offer, right? So I would say loyalty is almost non-existent in Vietnam.
Really?
Yeah, that could be
So
a
that's a
bold
big difference.
that could be a bold claim to say, but well, it's also different between regions. I would say northern consumers are a bit more loyal to their product.
Interesting.
Yeah, less open to change.
That makes sense, I guess, yeah. Well, what I want to ask about is something that we've talked a lot about on this podcast recently is Gen Z. It's just such a different generation. I feel so old now. I've talked about this a lot because I just can't believe that I'm old enough now that there's not just one, but there's like two generations beneath me. I'm one of the much maligned millennials that get blamed for everything in the world. And
I think I
now
asked you this before. Are you still millennial?
I'm
Yes.
I'm an older millennial. That's how old I
We
am.
had
I'm
this
like on the cusp. I'm
conversation.
born in 1982, so I'm literally like, I mean, and it's crazy as well because I literally remember the Millennium Party. I know exactly where I was, what I did. It's just nuts. I remember 1999 changing to 2000, and now I heard recently that at like a university, somebody quoted to the teacher said something like, "Oh, that paper's from the late 20th century." I was like, "What the fuck?" The late 20th century? That was the 90s, but yeah, that is the late.
Sounds like 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Bridgerton.
And now it's like 25. It's 25. It's a long time ago. But what are the biggest? Because one of the things about consumer trends with Gen Z, I read about this every day, is they drink less alcohol, like way less alcohol. And I messaged my sister just last week, and I was like, "Look at this!" It was like millennials have the biggest alcohol intake, and it was like, she's like, "Are you proud of that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm proud of that. That's awesome." But is that true that the Gen Z drink way less than millennials?
Yes, there's a lot of reports that have confirmed this trend. They are drinking less beer, but that doesn't mean that they are not drinking something else like liquor, more
So it's
cocktails.
not all
or,
alcohol content. It's drinking less beer.
Yeah, then we need the right data to look into that. But definitely people are consuming less beer. Well, in Vietnam because of the drunk driving law.
Well, let's talk about that. That was a big stark difference, right? So what was that, about 3 years ago? They changed the law to 0% tolerance, and I could see a stark difference. I remember
Did
the
you
day
ever get
after
pulled
that.
over?
I've never been pulled over there. I've been pulled over once because I was in the wrong street. It's so frustrating. I drove down the wrong like exit. It was for cars only. And it was just a genuine mistake. Like, once I pulled onto it, I was like, this is cars only. And then, of course, right as I got to the end, there was the cops there. And I was like, it's quite funny. The translation, it came across, said you were on a forbidden road, which sounds really that's obviously not what he said, but I knew what he meant. And I was like, yeah, no, I know, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it's fine in the end. So I've only been pulled over one time. But I saw a stark difference. Like, I remember I drove by, Tay's going to laugh at my pronunciation, a Nyao bar. Nyao. Like a bar where you drink beer and eat food.
No, huh?
Nyao. Nyao bar.
No bar.
Nyao. We call it a Western and we call it a Nyao bar. You just call it Nyao, right?
Nhậu bò, yeah, quán nhậu.
Quán nhậu. Yeah, like that,
Yeah,
right?
just mean like a
Where you eat like
nhậu
fried
bar.
food and
Yeah.
beer and things like that. And I remember driving by one and it was empty the day after this law came in. Because everyone was just used to driving there, drinking a lot, and then going home. I think people still do it, but it did make
But that made the difference.
It made a massive difference,
Yeah,
right?
in the beginning.
And you think that's then influenced beer sales, that one law?
Yeah, well, other factors too, but that definitely made a big dent into, I guess, beer companies' sales. And yeah, I mean, that's why to deal with this situation, like you need to adapt to consumer, to the environment. So what do? You put out, I don't know, 0 degree beer.
Yeah.
Uh,
We need more of that because there's
Lower
only
alcohol
Heineken
content.
0%. I'm dying for Guinness 0% to come here.
well,
Because
you have to
those
wait for
sales,
Guinness to come here
well, we
first.
don't even have Guinness yet. I know, right? Because apparently Guinness 0% sales are going through the roof in the UK, so I'm dying for that to come.
I think I saw 0 alcohol gin in Annam.
Yeah, there is. Yeah,
Yeah.
I looked at
So
it. It's like $1
surprised.
million bottle. I was like,
I'd
just
rather
drink
have
gin.
real
Yeah,
alcohol.
drink the real gin. Exactly. This is something that I do not understand about Vietnam. It's supposedly a poor country. I know it's not. It's developing, and there's lots and lots of rich people here. The amount of Porsches and Ferraris and Lamborghinis. Never see a Westerner. There's this stereotype that it's going to be like some older white guy. I've never seen a white guy in any car, never mind a nice car. It's always a young Vietnamese guy, right? But generally, Vietnam has lower income, right? Less money. Beer is a cheap drink, but you're saying there's less beer being drunk, but more cocktails. And I see cocktail bars popping up all over the place,
Yes,
and they're
it's a
so nice.
lifestyle.
Is the lifestyle right? They're
Yeah.
expensive. Like Vietnam they're less expensive than the West for sure, but they're still super expensive. So how can young people, especially who make less money, who don't have a huge income, go out and drink cocktails?
It's a little treat that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm from the
The
generation where
lifestyle
I'm going to drink 10
inspiration.
drinks.
Yeah, maybe people don't
They
go
don't
to
do
get
that.
drunk.
They just go and that's the difference with Vietnamese, I think, right?
Yeah, everything is about image.
Just being seen
You
in
do
a
everything,
cocktail
your
bar.
lifestyle is about image.
So how
'cause-
do bars make money then, right? So then the other side, because you've got, I mean, we were in a cocktail bar a month ago, and it was just all young female Vietnamese people, and guaranteed they're not drinking a lot. Probably young male Vietnamese people not drinking a lot either. So if they're sitting in this bar for 2 or 3 hours sipping on one cocktail, okay, so it costs 200,000 dong, but the bar only sells one of them. I know for me, if I'm going to a cocktail bar for 3 hours, I'm drinking about 3 cocktails at least minimum.
Probably me too.
Right? So this is the thing I don't understand about the world and about Vietnam and economics. How can they afford it? How can the bar survive?
Well, the F&B scene is actually quite tough to survive here in Vietnam. Because if something is so good, everyone want that piece of pie. And at some point, like someone got to give. You can't survive the...
It's just not a sustainable.
Yeah, not sustainable. Well, for some, it's always the zero-sum game, like some win, some lose.
Yeah. It's not sustainable that the economy can't sustain this level of cocktail bars, which actually brings me in to
To
something.
find the equilibrium.
Right. I think, and I want to know your opinion on this, is this another Vietnamese trait, right? I don't think I've seen this in any other country I've lived in. Things, industries, shops boom and then bust. And let me give you some examples. And I think now from this conversation, I think cocktail bars are probably in the same category. Boba tea, milk tea that you mentioned, there was at one point, do you remember the street next to the Bitexco Tower was literally like milk tea street? Like every business closed and opened up, it was milk tea everywhere. I was like, this is insane. Do you remember Howlum Yogurt? Not many people even heard of it. Howlum Yogurt. It's just like a yogurt brand, like frozen yogurt, and it blew up like overnight almost. There was one on every corner, then it disappeared. There's a Manuka honey place, a Manuka yogurt. I don't know. That's another place seems to have blown up, disappeared. I've noticed this over the years in Vietnam, and I think it's maybe, I don't know if it's Vietnamese people or investors or overseas investors who are like, that's a trend. Let's all get in, like milk tea. Then
Milk
it's
tea
massive. I don't know if it's
still
happening with
alive and well.
but not like it was before.
Not like it was before.
No.
There's a generation of milk tea that was super popular. Like the chain, the franchise from Taiwan, from China, right? But now there is a next generation of milk tea that doesn't just give you milk tea. It gives you milk tea with boba on top, with, I don't know, gold flake on top, with cloud foam on top. It's crazy. It's like we can have a milk tea with 5 different layers with different tastes in each layers and different texture and different toppings. Topping is an interesting thing. Do you know what's the average number of toppings that people get in a takeaway drink?
I have no idea.
2 toppings. They need to have at least 2 toppings. They need to have a drink of their own. Something that is unlike anybody else. They need to add this topping. That's why it's an option that we get nowadays.
So do you think cocktail bars are going to boom and bust? Are we seeing that right now?
Saigon is a metropolitan city, and as any metropolitan city that I see is still going to be there.
Yeah. I forget Saigon is 10 million people. I mean, but it's very spread
now
out.
more.
Now more, yeah, because of the super city. Now you're from Hanoi, studied in the US, and lived in the UK, and now you're back in
Now
Saigon.
I'm Saigon.
So that's massive differences in cultures that you've seen. Literally in the last episode, we just talked to Mai Doan, and she had a very similar story. She went to the US at 17, studied there, I think, for about 6 years, and then came back. I don't want to repeat the same story, but tell me your story then. How did you end up going overseas? And when you got to the US, what was the stark, like, biggest cultural shock that you had?
and tell you the start of my journey. So I started out as an exchange student in Oklahoma.
Wait. Oklahoma. Oh my God. She went to Oregon, which was like another thing, like just in the middle of nowhere, right? The American dream is like San Francisco, LA, New York. You're in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma in the Bible Belt.
They've probably
That's
never
like
seen an Asian
in the
person
Western
before,
movies
right?
that you would see in the 70s, like with Clint Eastwood, and it's still like that.
They've
So
probably never seen an Asian person, never mind like
no, never.
Vietnamese
I
person.
was
They
the
probably
only
never.
Asian.
Yeah, I bet.
There's like a half Asian, half African American guy there, but I'm like the only Asian that comes from Asia. So very soon I realized that this is not High School Musical. My high school graduating class had 50 students, and 25 of them probably didn't make it to graduation. So it's a very interesting start. I lived with a host family who are missionaries and pastors at church. So all the kids were homeschooled, and I was the only kid in the family who went to public school. So their 4 kids actually were homeschooled their whole life.
I feel like that's not a good host family. Why would they?
They were super nice.
I'm
Like,
sure they were super
yeah,
nice, but
they've got their principal, but
I feel like
it's
why
just
would they even
different.
want to do it? Like we are missionaries, so we're Christian. We teach our kids at school at home, but we'll bring someone in who's I mean I don't know if you're
For
non-Christian,
them to
but
have that cultural exchange element, right?
instead of just sending their kids to school to like learn about other people, they're like, we'll bring someone all the way from Vietnam so you can get a cultural exchange. Well, it's good. It was a good experience. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
Oh, I didn't understand half the thing they said. The southern accent is like it was like deep rural of America. I had no idea. Everybody wear cowboy boots to high school, I guess, and diabetes rate is actually off the roof.
Really, because of the big
And it
red.
was super interesting. To definitely not the typical American dream experience that I didn't expect anything, but I didn't realize it until I told my friends this story later on. It's like, oh my God, like you had a unique experience. So many of my American friends, they never ever been to Oklahoma.
Most Americans would never been to Oklahoma. Everyone was married to their cousins. No, I'm sorry, Oklahoma. I didn't mean to make an incest joke.
I thought it's PG-13.
Where did you go after Oklahoma?
So after Oklahoma, I've got a full ride scholarship to a small liberal arts college in Ohio. Well, Ohio is actually a huge college state. So there are so many different universities, colleges of different sizes, and actually there are 3 divisions. I think that mainly categorized based on the sport level. So you would hear someone say, "Oh, I play sport. I go to a Division 1 school." That's probably their school is like in Division 1, which is like Duke University, like all the Ivy League, and then you got Division 2 and Division 3. So my college had actually is not big at all. It's 2,000 students when I went, and probably had 5% of international students. So my experience as an international student is quite different from, let's say, someone who went to college in, I guess, in San Francisco or in New York City or even Massachusetts. Hugely different.
Totally different college experience. Yeah. What was it, like 2,000 people? It's tiny.
Yeah, middle class. Most of them are middle class, predominantly white. So they're obviously living in that tiny mini community. There were a lot of lessons to be learned about race, about culture, about the American dream. Also about being international. So that really opened my eyes. I think that was the first time when I really understood the concept of being a minority, of being different, of being, I guess, being judged based on something so inherent about yourself. For example, your race, your skin color, etc. So that's hugely eye-opening, but that's also actually very prevalent a prevalent issue in the state. But yeah, so at the time, I was very involved in this movement of just bringing culture to more people and being just part of all these organizations, associations that help bridging the different cultural gaps. But still, for me, that's the biggest lesson about the world that I learned living in different parts of the world.
I'm very aware, I've said this a lot, that I'm a white guy. I know that. And I know all the privileges that have come with that my whole life. I'm a straight white man, right? Like literally, I've realized this over the years. My wife is Mexican American, live in Vietnam. I have lots of friends that aren't straight white guys, right? I realized this a few years ago. I have never once in my life faced discrimination. That's like,
Or different type of.
no, I've never, I walk into a room. I don't know when I don't walk in thinking like someone has an opinion of me. I know even as a female, which is 50% of the population, you walk into a room, there's challenges that you have to face just as a female, right? So I've never faced that. And I remember I had not an argument, but a discussion with a friend years ago. He was in Vietnam. He was another straight white guy. And he's like, no, I've been discriminated before. I was younger. I wore a hoodie and because I walked into the shop wearing a hoodie, like they thought I was a thug. And I was like, yeah, but that, like they had an opinion of you, but that's not discrimination. They didn't discriminate.
Systematic
Yeah.
discrimination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I think has really interested me about what you just said there is you experienced it because you left Vietnam, right? So it's different for someone who's an American Asian, right? American Vietnamese, they're born in America, they're going to face discrimination.
A different way
Undoubtedly, right?
of
But Vietnam is
discrimination.
like, we call it a monoculture, right? Like there's not many different, you've
Not
not many
a lot of
different religions
diversity,
here. You don't
yeah.
have many different ethnic groups. You do, but like it's,
We are the same. We do everything the same.
yeah, right? Being 100 million people, but they're
Yeah.
all pretty much the same. Yeah, for sure. So explain to me a little bit more about what was that like then, suddenly being taken out of this homogenous 100 million places where, and a proud, Vietnam is so proud and nationalistic. You've never once probably thought in your life, like, I'm different. And then suddenly you're dropped in fucking Oklahoma and there's 2,000 people liberal arts college. And suddenly you're like, oh, I'm discriminated against. I'm different. I'm facing racism maybe. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, that's really when I start to realize people interaction with me and how that could be influenced by the way that I look, the way that I carry myself. So being in a predominantly white college, that means I have to present myself, present my own culture. I remember, it's funny so the first class of my freshman year in college, it was public speaking. And the first thing that the professor said, what is something that will prevent your interaction with other people or like make you have some judgment? And someone said, when someone has an accent. And I immediately dropped that class. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot be here. And that's the first, like, I guess, instant when I was aware of me and then my environment and then what people could be thinking about me. Because growing up in Vietnam, we don't really think that. Like, yes, like I grew up, I guess, a rebel in some sense, but it's never like that. It's never because of my skin color, of my hair color, of the way I speak. So that gave me a lot of stuff to think about, and then about my self identity, how I want to carry myself, and not just in the States, also in the UK that happens too, but quite in a different way. And then coming back here, you have carried all of these cultures within yourself back home, and then you have to evolve, right? You can't be the same 16-year-old girl who never left Vietnam, right? So you have to carry everything, all the cultures, everything good and bad that you've learned about yourself, about the world. You have to be your own person. And then I learned to be my own person, who is the convergence of the East and the West and the modern and the tradition. And I think that's when I found out that I fell in love with Saigon, because when I first arrived, actually, I didn't visit Saigon until I was 28. When I came back from the UK, I just had a trip here. I had a work trip And I realized this is where I can be myself.
So you said that it's convergence of the East and the West,
Yes,
and it's a different person. Who is
yes,
that person, and why does that person like Saigon?
because I could be every single version that I have ever been in Saigon without fear of judgment. I know that I could make friends who have the same background, who have so many history of traveling, living in different cultures, and Saigon is just a melting pot. Like it's the perfect place to meet super interesting people like you. And it's so large that you keep meeting new people every day, and that makes it so exciting to live in Saigon because it is the center point of everything.
Well, I think that is a perfect place to finish, Jane. Thank you so much. This has been so interesting, so enlightening. I could listen to more of your stories all day, but we're going to stop it there. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. You know how much I appreciate. And I always still get shocked to this day when I meet somebody or somebody messages me saying that they listened or watched the podcast. I'm like, wait, what? We're putting it out there for people to listen to. And I still get shocked when I find out that people watch it, listen to it, consume it. So thank you so much for tuning in. Just remember, don't forget, if you haven't already, follow, subscribe, rate, review, do all of those good things to help the podcast grow more than we already have after 6 years. And the best thing that you can do is please share this podcast with somebody else who loves Vietnam and you want to share more about Vietnam with them. So thank you so much, Jane. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Neil.
You're
Been wonderful.
You're very welcome. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Whether it's your first cleaning or you're finally sorting that long overdue crown, Premier Dental is where you should go for dental care done right. Family founded, ethically run, internationally trained. Premier Dental has been trusted by generations since 1999, including me and Adri. Learn more at premierdental.vn and make sure to tell them when you go that you heard it here at a Vietnam podcast from me, Neil Mackay. Cheers.